Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of Vuelogs Crosscheck Podcast. It's been a really wild ride over the past couple months, and I've had some really fantastic guests on the show so far. Today we have someone who's been really keen to get on the show today, and I promised him that as soon as he'd be here, we're going to crack a bottle of red wine. So welcome, Neil. Welcome to the show.
I often say to myself, as you get older, as long as you retain your boyish good looks, you've got nothing to worry about. I am, of course, talking about the British Airways Boeing 777 fleet.
As a seasoned traveler, but still pretty new to the aviation YouTube community, Neil Smith can often be found in the lounge hours before boarding even starts. Neil uses brilliant humor to keep the viewers engaged. And it works, because in just a year's time, he's been able to hit the 1,000 subscriber milestone already. So it's time to raise the glass here at the Vuelogs Crosscheck Podcast, together with Neil Smith. Hello, Neil. Welcome to the podcast.
And hello, Robin. Thanks for having me on the show. Really excited to be here, and what a fantastic introduction. And you're already opening the bottle of red wine, so absolutely. I'm just going to top up my glass, if that's okay. So,
yes.
Shall I show the viewers what I'm drinking this evening, or this morning in your time? So we've got a nice South Australian Merlot for me this evening.
That sounds good. And I've got a nice red Rioja, and I'm going to pop it right near the microphone for the extra added effect.
Well done.
There you
Super
go.
Sound. Music to my ears, Robin. Music to my ears.
It's almost noon here, so it's like So Plain said, just pretend you're at an airport, right?
Exactly. Pretend you're at an airport lounge and just drink.
Because there you go.
Cheers. Very nice.
No, that's not true. That's a joke. Because talking about lounges, I think that out of everything that you do about traveling, lounges are pretty much the favorite part about your trip, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think I got the lounge bug years and years ago, and I really enjoy a nice executive lounge. They used to call them executive lounges. I don't think they call them that anymore. But when I first started traveling, back in the old British Midland days, back on the old DC-9s, the McDonnell Douglas DC-9s, jetting between Teesside and Heathrow, they had the Diamond Club Lounge, it was called then, and I thought, this is quite nice, and they give you free wine and some nibbles and things. And then gradually, as I've got older, I've started to really appreciate the lounges even more, and I love them so much that was the driving factor to getting the Amex Platinum card, because that comes with even more lounge access. So you get access I get access not just to the Star Alliance Gold lounges, to the One World lounges, but also now the Amex card is really good, the Platinum card, for lounge access, because you get access to, particularly for me, the Plaza Premium Lounge at Terminal 5 at Heathrow, which is a nice haven, it's a nice place to be. Plus on the odd time I travel with Eurostar, the train service to Paris, you get access to their lounges as well. So I think there's probably not that many lounges in the world that I can't access now. And I just love the lounge experience. It's all part of the flight experience for me. So I do drink a lot of red wine, as I feature in the videos, and I drink a lot of champagne, drink a lot of vodka, whiskey, you name it, I'll drink it if it's free. So I just, like I said, and like you've identified, I love the whole lounge access. And when I go to the States next year with my new friend, Neil Turner, who's a fellow Air Geek and fellow fairly new to the vlogging industry, I've actually, as part of designing the itinerary, we've factored in as many airport lounges as we can get access to. And we're really hoping that the new Amex Centurion Lounge at New York at JFK will be open by that point. But I know that Neil will be fed up with me by the time we get back, because we'll be squeezing in as many lounges, and he's just going to be worn out walking from lounge to lounge. So you know what? It's part of the experience, Robin. Yeah.
What's the most amount of lounges you've ever been able to squeeze into one trip? Before one flight?
Before one flight, it's a good question, actually. I generally do two, because you've always got, well, if you take any typical trip, you'll always have the airline lounge, plus you'll have something like Priority Pass or Plaza Premium Lounge. So at Terminal 2 at Heathrow, on one of the last trips I did before the lockdown, was to Vienna with Austrian Airlines.
Mhm.
So I tried the Lufthansa Senator Lounge with the gold status, and then went into the Priority Pass Lounge next door. And actually, there's method in the madness, because the one thing I will say, Robin, is that at Manchester Airport, which is the airport I fly from most often, the BA Lounge isn't that good. It's roomy, but the food isn't that good. There's no hot food. So what I do is, on a morning, if I've got an early morning flight for work, I'll go into the Priority Pass Lounge next door to get my sausage sandwich and have a glass of wine, and then pop back round and have another glass of wine, or maybe a Bushmills or something, or a Jameson's in the BA Lounge. So maximum number of lounges, probably no more than 3 or 4. But I always look at which airport I'm flying from and think, right, how many lounges have I got access to? And I try all of them. And the Priority Pass lounges sometimes can be difficult to get into, because the business model with the third-party lounges has changed a lot over the last few years. So the lounges now prioritize selling access directly. The airport sells access directly to the public. Whereas when I first started traveling, if you had Priority Pass, you would get into any lounge, because that was the de facto way of getting into that lounge. So, I sometimes wander off grumpy and think, right, well, I'm not getting into that lounge, but, that's the exception. The Manchester lounges are difficult to get into with Priority Pass, but there's always the good old BA lounge to fall back on if needs be. Lounge is really important to me. I love the whole lounge experience. Yeah.
Excellent. Because if you look at the average traveler, just the average Joe that goes on holiday maybe once or twice a year, taking a flight, they have no idea of how airports work and lounges and status with the airline. What are they missing out on?
So I think what they're missing out on is, as airports have become more and more popular. So if I sort of move my thoughts to Leeds Bradford Airport, which is one of the nearest airports to me, it's not the closest one to me, but it's one of them that I use a lot. When I first started flying 20 odd years ago for work, flying was very expensive because there was no EasyJet, there was no Ryanair. And so airports were much nicer experiences than they are now. If you go to Leeds Bradford or Manchester now on a busy weekday morning, you won't find a seat to sit down on in the main concourse. Airports are congested. Airports obviously are very expensive to build, so the airports haven't necessarily kept up with demand, and Manchester is only now starting to develop new facilities, much needed facilities I'd add. So I think the lounge access is a nice respite. It's somewhere where you can go, sit back, kick back a little bit, just relax, and have a good old glass of wine or two, or in my case, I usually bring the bottle to the table, and it's just easier. It saves the effort on your feet. That's the thing. So you don't have to walk as far. So I generally just do that, Robin. I just bring the bottle to me and just sit there and get drunk. And that's the thing. You can do that. And I think as long as you do it sensibly, I've never got to the point where I've been asked to leave an aircraft or or I've been badly behaved on an aircraft. That's not me. But I think airport lounges, to me, what people are missing out on is just that ability to just kick back and relax. And when you look at, years ago, before I had airline status, I used to just buy a Priority Pass access every year. And and I think, relatively speaking, the cost of that was, I think, £300 a year, something of that order. And actually, I got so much value out of that Priority Pass membership, because if you think how much airports charge for alcohol, for food, it's actually, you can make your money back very quickly if you think about it, and how much money you would spend at the airport on food and drink. And so to me, I like a drink probably more than the average person, but having the lounge access is an absolute godsend. Not just from my perspective, because it's enjoyable, it's a nice part of the experience, but it's just that, it's just a godsend sometimes when you've got a packed, congested airport, and particularly if you've had some difficult meetings at work, or you've had just a long day, because if I fly down to London on a Monday morning, I'll be up out of bed at 3:30 in the morning to get to Manchester for 7 o'clock, to get the flight down at 8 o'clock down to Heathrow. And, then some days, because I'm married and because my wife doesn't like me being away that often, some days I'll fly back in the evening. And by the time I get back, it's sort of 10, 11 o'clock at night. And so in that day, you're trying to just have 5 minutes where you can, just to have a drink or just to relax and just to unwind. And the airport lounges do that for me. That's absolutely massive benefit to me. Yeah. So have I sold you on the airport lounges? That's the thing.
I was sold already, actually. For me, one of the main benefits of airline lounges is simply that indeed you have that peace and quiet in the busy airport. It's like that haven of quiet, but also a place where you can just leave your suitcase out, walk away, go to the washroom and come back and it's still there.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any other place in the airport where you can do that, because especially in the US where they announce constantly, like, don't leave your suitcase alone because that's going to be bomb threats and all that stuff. And in a lounge, you can just leave stuff on a table, a computer, anything, and it'll still be there. Well, knock on wood, but
exactly.
It'll still be there. I don't want to jinx it.
No.
But that for me is really why a lounge is so fantastic, because it is really in a busy, so many people walking, they're running because they're late for a flight, and then in the lounge you can just sit down, glass of red or a beer, for free,
just relax, for free, all inclusive, and I think that without the lounge access, I think it makes the journey twice as hard. And don't get me wrong, I'm, like we said earlier, I'm flying up to Iceland next week, my first flight in 4 months, and they have a lounge there, which is it's been refurbished. It's very nice. But if it wasn't there, that's fine, Robin. I can, don't get me wrong, I can travel without getting to an airport lounge. I can live without the airport lounge. I'm not addicted to it. But I'm hoping I'll get in. I'm hoping it'll be nice, and I'm hoping that it's almost it just saves you that money. It just saves you that extra bit of money that you would spend otherwise, because the flight's at 6 o'clock in the morning. If you can grab a bite to eat, it's just convenient and it's efficient. So,
if I stay over in a hotel and I have to pay $30 for a hotel breakfast, I prefer going to the lounge instead in the morning before the flight.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I would as well. Next month I'm going, or the month after rather, I'm hopefully going to Spain, although obviously we've just seen the news today. But for me, I'm staying at one of the cheapest hotels at Heathrow, the Premier Inn. It's nice. It's 29 quid a night. It works. It's functional. And I like Premier Inns. I don't have a problem. There's no loyalty scheme, but for £29, I'll live with that. But I'm not going to pay nearly £10 for breakfast if I can then get that in the BA lounge across the way in 5 or 10 minutes. And what's the point? Why would I? Why would anybody do that? And arguably, you don't get a glass of champagne with the breakfast in the hotel as way as you do in the BA lounges. So, it's a nice way to start the day.
How do you think airport lounges are going to change though with the coronavirus?
I think it's going to be. I think with the priority pass, the third-party lounges, it's going to be ever more increasingly difficult to get into them because they're going to have social distancing in place for the right reasons. They have to do that. Social distancing is hugely important. But I think if I thought getting into the priority pass lounges was difficult before, it's going to be 10 times harder now. So I've pretty much resigned myself to the fact that I'm probably not going to be using priority pass lounges for the next 12 months or so, which is why I've tried to skew all of my business towards the airlines where I've got status. So the flag carriers effectively. So either One World or Star Alliance carriers effectively. So I'm always guaranteed lounge access with them. But I think if you look at how British Airways has developed over the last few weeks since they've started opening their lounges, it's a bit of a hybrid situation. So you've got some at certain times of the day, some Club World business class passengers are using the first class lounge, and it's extremely variable at the moment. But that's because airlines are just trying to find their way in what is a very difficult situation. But I think the next few years, I think the Priority Pass model will have to change. I've heard rumours that there is a new American Express card coming that sits somewhere between Platinum and Centurion. Centurion card, of course, I can't get because, believe it or not, I'm not a multimillionaire and I don't spend huge sums on my Amex card, or not enough to warrant a Centurion card. So I think, one of the perks that's rumoured for that, I don't know what they're going to call it, but one of the perks that's rumoured is guaranteed lounge access to the third-party lounges, which would be great. That would be superb, Robin. It would just be the icing on the cake for me to know that I could fly with the likes of EasyJet and Ryanair and get guaranteed lounge access wherever I went. At the moment, I can't do that unless I'm going to pay the huge sums that the airports demand. At Manchester, it's £35 or £40 to enter, and whether you'd get the return on that investment, I don't know. I don't know that an airline lounge is worth 35 quid to get into, frankly. But who knows? So I think next few years, Priority Pass has got its work cut out to keep its customers, I think, because you only need to look on their feed on the Twitter to see every other comment is, I was denied entry. And I think Priority Pass will have to do something about that. Because at the moment it's become an unsustainable model since the airport started charging directly for lounge access, and I don't blame the airport for doing that, but it places Priority Pass in a difficult situation, I think.
What's the issue getting into the Priority Pass lounges though? Is it capacity?
Capacity, purely capacity, yeah. So to keep it, and again, the airport lounges have to be responsible. They've got two choices to make. They either say, right, we'll let everybody in which case it becomes just another congested airport terminal. And then you would think, well, what's the point paying for Priority Pass because I'm not getting anything here.
Free wine.
Free wine. but then, frankly, it's like trying to get a sausage sandwich sometimes in that lounge is hard work because everybody queues up for the sausages on a morning, and I'm one of them, and I'm stood there thinking, you've got the last sausage. How dare you? And I'm hungry. This is my first meal of the day. I want the sausages. So, sausages are hard to come by in some lounges, Robin, let me tell you. So I think the issue is capacity. And I think the issue is the airports rather, will always sell access at £35 or £40. And you can't blame them. Fill up the lounge using those customers who are paying that. And then what you've seen with Priority Pass is that it's become more or less an off-peak privilege. Yep. So they'll welcome you after 9 o'clock in the morning, but before 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it sometimes feels like the Priority Pass people just get given the scraps and then, everybody else gets first choice. But again, let's face it, Robin, you can't blame the airports for doing that. They've got to prop up their revenue somehow. Although I'm a bit aggrieved about paying to pick up somebody or drop somebody off, which is a new thing here in the UK. But I think that's the issue. And they need more sausages in the lounge. If I ever run for politics and run for office, that's going to be my campaign promise. More sausages in airport lounges, guaranteed.
If you're watching.
If you're watching Boris Johnson, that needs to be your priority. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. More sausages in the airport lounges.
Yeah. How have the past 4 months or 5? It's been since March pretty much. How have they been for you? Tough,
really tough. I think the first month. So my last flight was on the 14th of March. I just got back from Austria with Austrian Airlines, an excellent airline, I might add, really, really good. And if you haven't seen the video, have a look at it. Shameless plug
we'll watch a clip in a couple of minutes.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I flew back. I had a bit of a hangover, shamelessly, on the flight back, as you saw. So I had I'll not spoil it, but so my last flight was back up from Heathrow up to Manchester, 14th of March, BA 1398. It's a flight that I know very well. And the airport lounge was really quiet. You could tell things were changing at that point. Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably 3 or 4 days before lockdown here in the UK. So, and I had a lump. I genuinely had a lump in my throat because I thought this could be the last flight that I take for a long time. And sure enough, it was, sadly. So I've been out of the air for the last 4 months, as you said. First month, I was okay with it. First month, because I work from home anyway when I'm not traveling. So the first month I thought, yeah, I can deal with this, that's fine. And the thing is, Robin, all of the refunds were starting to come back from the airline. So I thought, hooray, I'm rich. But of course, then the reality started setting in sort of month 2 or 3. And I was thinking, I'm climbing the walls here because as I'm talking to you now, this is where I work. This is, it's a room in the house that we have as an office for me. And I'm staring at these 4 walls during the day and I'm thinking, I've got to do something here. I have got to do something because I can't just sit here day after day and not have any travel. Because don't forget, with me, I've been a corporate traveller for 20 odd years now, dating all the way back to the DC-9s, and suddenly that stopped. And so I wake up on a Monday morning at 4 o'clock thinking, I should be getting out of bed now. I should be on my way to Manchester Airport. Instead of which, I've just got another 9 to 5 office day sat in front of a laptop, and so I think I decided at month 2 to order a bike. So I took up cycling, something that somebody of my frame isn't ideally suited to. But because I was drinking so much, I just thought, I've got to do something here. I bought an Apple Watch, and it was telling me that my heart rate was sky high. Even on a normal day, it was sort of approaching 100, which for somebody like me, it's just, and that's just because I was just doing nothing. I had no exercise and drinking. So, not that there's anything wrong with drinking, by the way, but so I bought a bike, and actually I've taken up cycling. I quite enjoy it. It's quite good. It's not flying, don't get me wrong, but it's something that I had to do. And I'm not a walker. I'm not naturally. I get bored because walking, you don't get far. You walk at 3 miles an hour, you're not going to get very far. But cycling, I'll do sort of 10, 12 miles at a time. So it's not, it's not international standards, but I'm never going to be a cycling champion. But and the first few times out, I was wheezing and puffing and panting as I was climbing the hills, thinking I could just do with a glass of wine now. But so I looked on eBay to see if I could find a little bracket for my bike, so I could have a wine glass holder for my bike, so I could get the bottle holder, attach it to the sort of put the so I could just sort of pop the bottle of wine like that on the bike and attach a straw to it or something like that. But I couldn't find anything, believe it or not. So there you go. There's a business opportunity for somebody.
You could try a camel bag.
I could, and that was my next thought is to have that, so I can just have the bag with the wine, and I can just, as I'm puffing and panting up the hill on the bike, I can have a glass of wine. So the last 4 months have been...
In moderation, people.
In moderation, absolutely, yeah, I should say, yeah. I don't know if they do that in Canada, but here they tell you on the back of the bottle, they do actually tell you what's an acceptable, please drink responsibly, and it tells you how many units you should have. Or
return for a refund.
Oh, okay. No, don't do that. No. Never ever. No, I've never asked for a refund on alcohol. No, never.
Oh, this is bottle deposit.
Okay. Oh, of course. Yeah. I don't know if we do that here in the UK. Actually, I don't think we do.
Canada.
Mm.
They have bottle deposit on milk cartons as well.
All right. I think we used to do years ago when I was a child, we used to do on lemonade bottles, but here I don't think we do on the wine bottles. I'm not sure. I don't know. Who knows? So I think, the last 4 months have been, and now where I am now is it's really biting now. I don't mind admitting that. It's as somebody who loves flying, as you know, and the whole AvGeek community, you can see on Twitter, and you can see those conversations that people have, and people are getting fed up now, I think, with just being at home. So, but the good news is I'm back in the air next week, as I said. So back up to Iceland, Reykjavik, a great country to visit, really good, with Neil Turner, who's a friend of mine and Patreon supporter of the channel, which is great. So we're just going to spend a couple of days up there. Iceland at the moment, if you're from the United Kingdom, you have to take a COVID test when you get there. Yep. And you get the results straight away. So Noel did a video on that a few weeks ago, where he featured Iceland. But it's not a pleasant thing if you've not had one done, but it takes 10, 12 seconds, and then you get the results the same day.
Yeah.
So.
I had one done before my trip to Vancouver. So for you, then that video was released yesterday. Then once this podcast is out, that's a week ago. I had done one before I left to make sure that I would leave being negative, and then also did one when I came back to make sure that I didn't get it
Oh,
after
right.
my trip to Vancouver. I thought I might as well do it the responsible way. Both tests were negative. Was fantastic. The first time I did it, they did a throat swab. I was like, totally fine. It's not too bad. So the second time I walked in, I was so confident. I was like, we'll just rock this. It's we've done it before. And she starts explaining what they're gonna do. I was like, I've done this before. She was like, well, did you get the throat swab last time? I was like, yeah. She was like, well, sorry, you're gonna get the nose one now.
The nose one as well. Yeah.
They go in like 5 centimeters. It's so.
Oh, they do. Yeah. It brings tears to your eyes. And it's the first one I did was when it was a drive-through one here in the UK. So you book it in advance and you go through. And my wife works for the NHS, so we both got ours done in separate cars, but together at the same time. And so she was like, don't be an idiot. You're just going to get it done. It's dead simple. They stick a thing up your nose. You won't notice it. You won't notice it. I thought they were reaching for the top of my head. It was awful. I was like, did you have to do that? And the thing is, they didn't tell me. So she just said, right, this end of the stick is going to the back of your mouth. This end of the stick goes up your nose. So I was like, oh, that's fine. They'll just have a little rummage round. Actually, I thought she was like, she just jabbed it straight up there. And I actually had tears coming from my eyes when I left. And I said to my wife afterwards, that was horrible. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's dead simple to do. But this is coming from somebody who works in the medical profession, of course. And for somebody like me, an office worker, this is not a pleasant thing to do, Robin. This is not. But, fortunately, it came back negative. But I'm going to have another one next week when we get to Iceland. But it's for the right reasons.
It's for the greater good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
God, it's noon here.
Yes, it will be. Yeah. Well, you're getting through that bottle of wine. Well done. That's good stuff.
It is. It is really good. You post your flight schedule usually on Medium.
I do.
Looking at your schedule, you had a lot of flights booked. Looking here, in June you were supposed to go to JFK, Tel Aviv. You're supposed to be there next week.
Next week. Yeah.
And then Billund again on the Dornier, I think that is, and then Gibraltar.
Right. Yeah.
What
happened?
What happened? Did you have to cancel all these flights?
I mean, where do I start, Robin? It's been. So the first thing I would say is on the Medium, I'll have to update my Twitter feed because actually I put a lot of my flights on BA97 now. And the reason I'm saying that is perhaps we can put a link in is because I always welcome people to come and join me because I can guest people into most lounges apart from the Eurostar lounge. So if there's a flight on there and if any of your viewers want to come along and join me, I love to meet people as I'm on the trips. So the invitation's definitely there. If anybody sees a trip that I've got logged and you're on that same flight or in the same airport, just let me know. Drop me a DM and come along and join me and come say hello. I've met a lot of people through that. So the offer's there. They're definitely there. But yes, I was supposed to, the biggest disappointment this year for me in terms of cancelled flights, I was booked to fly to Singapore on Qatar Airways in the Q suite. And I've never done it before. And to be fair to Qatar Airways, and they've had a lot of criticism over the last few months, but to be fair, they treated me really well. So they said to me, look, because they changed the flight 3 or 4 times. So it was a really good deal. It was £1,100, starting in Oslo to Doha to Singapore in the Q suite. So I think one of the sectors was Q suite. One of them was on one of their older business class seats, but that was fine. But they changed the aircraft 2 or 3 times. And so I phoned Qatar Airways and I said, look, is this flight going to go or not? And the person on the end of the phone, the girl said, probably not. But she said, if you want a refund, we'll give you a refund. Or if you want to rebook, we'll rebook. Or just leave it as it is. You might get to go. As it turns out, I wouldn't have done because Singapore went into lockdown. But I said, well, look, let's just take a refund and we'll do it again next year. And the refund came through within a week. But very disappointing because clearly the Q suite is supposedly one of the best business class cabins out there. And so I really did want to go along, make a video of it. And I was going to go with my friend Rob, but we've postponed that to next year. Tel Aviv was supposed to be next week. So Neil and I were supposed to be going there. Unfortunately, that flight was cancelled by British Airways.
747?
So we wanted, well, it was on, going back to the old British Midland days, and I'm sort of reminiscing now, but British Midland developed what they called a mid-haul product, a mid-haul business class product, which was not quite a Club World seat, but something in between, a hybrid product for those flights that were sort of longer than 5 hours, but sub 7-8 hours, the New York type, the US type flights. And so Neil and I decided we'd cash in some BA points to fly on the Airbus 321, I think it's 321, on the hybrid product. And British Airways acquired those when they bought British Midland a few years ago. And we really wanted to try that because that's one of those aircraft like JetBlue, which has the throne seat. So it's got that sort of, you sit in the middle and then, yeah, correct. Yeah, the diamond seats, yeah. So anyway, they cancelled that flight. They cancelled the whole flight. So we were supposed to fly out there on an Airbus 350 and fly back on the 321, the hybrid business class. And unfortunately, it got cancelled. So we found this flight. So I said to Neil, right, we've got to find something to do because I've booked the time off work and I really have to get back in the air. I'm bored now. So sure enough, this was at 1 o'clock on some Sunday morning a couple of weeks ago. So we're exchanging messages backwards and forwards on WhatsApp, and he said, I found this great deal. It's from Luton Airport, which doesn't have the best reputation, but we'll try it. We'll see what it's like, and you'll see that in the video. Next week for £49 plus the seat reservation fee. And so I said, right, well, let's just do it. So so we had to cancel that, unfortunately. But we are going to Billund next month. So that's a weekend, which is Billund, of course, famous for Legoland, which if you're a big kid like me, I went there with Sam Smith, who's another fellow, not a vlogger, but fellow AvGeek.
You've done the video on the 328 there.
We did. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, on the Dornier. Yeah. It's a nice little aircraft, actually. It's because I'm not, so the thing is, right, I don't like the Dash 8. I absolutely hate the Dash 8. It's just a horrible aircraft.
Oh,
as far as I'm concerned.
So plain hear it.
I know. I saw his comment this afternoon when I was watching the video. I thought, yeah, he because I think he grew up flying on them. I think is what he was saying, something like that, wasn't it?
Yes.
But to me, they're just flimsy. They feel flimsy. They feel cheap, and I don't like them at all. I used to fly them a lot from Leeds to Belfast when Flybe was around, and I don't like them, Robin. I try to actively avoid them. And so it's nice to get a regional jet, a regional plane that's got jet engines actually, and and if you look at the video, it's a remarkably fast aircraft taking off. You know, it doesn't require too much room to take off, and inside it's very quiet. It's a nice flight. It's a nice regional jet to fly on, and the operator who operates on behalf of British Airways, Sun Air of Scandinavia, has got a really fantastic little niche aircraft an operation. But the reason we're flying on the evening service next month is because they give you free alcohol on the evening service, whereas on the morning service, we asked. So I went with Sam I think it was January, February time. We went to Billund, and I said to Sam, just ask them if they've got any wine on board. And this was at sort of 9 o'clock in the morning, and the girl sort of looked, and it's the way she looked at me, as if to say, I know what you're up to, mister. So anyway, unfortunately, you don't get alcohol on the morning services, but on the evening services, you do. So I said to Sam, in fact, I think it was Sam that said to me, next time, let's go on the evening service. So then you still get the breakfast, not the breakfast, you get the evening meal, but you get wine. Importantly, you get wine. And of course, because it's a BA franchise, we get the lounge access before as well. So we'll have a few Bushmills. Well, I'm saying he doesn't really drink. I'm the drinker for us. So, yeah. So it'd be good. It's a nice aircraft to fly on. Quite old now. It's quite old technology, but yeah, nice little regional plane to fly on.
I've flown on the 328. However, I don't know if you know this, but the 328 has both a prop as well as a jet variant.
It does. Yeah.
Which I think is the only, correct me if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Someone's going to prove me wrong probably, but is the only commercial aircraft that has both variants, both engine types?
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right on that. Who operates it in the turboprop variant? Do you know?
Here in Canada, here in Edmonton, there is a small airline called Central Mountain Air,
Right.
CMA. They're operating it here. It's their main aircraft, and they have a couple Dash 8 100s, and some Beach 1900s.
Okay.
So it's all
Okay.
small turboprop aircraft. It's just fantastic, Neil, because if you ever hear down here in Alberta, there's so many cool airlines to fly, all small aircraft.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's
yeah.
all a lot of turboprops. And I'm also sorry because the liquor cabinet in the lounges here doesn't open until 11 in the morning.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we'll
Okay.
have to take an afternoon flight then.
So when I pop over to when we meet, then let's just book afternoon flights. We'll just anything after 11 a.m. is fine. Yeah, yeah. Is that that must be a legal thing? Is it? Must
It
be a
is.
legal thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although with the sun flights that you're taking with Dornier, I think there's probably another reason behind not serving alcohol in the morning. They probably have had some trouble in the past.
Yeah. Well, you see and that's the thing. And the thing that baffled me, and it still does. So again, if any viewers know the answer to this, because I asked it at the time, is what I couldn't work out with that route is it's very expensive. Sam and I just used miles for it, but it's really expensive. It can be anything up to
£700, right?
Yeah, anything up to £700 return, and it's only a 90-minute flight. But it was full. It was absolutely full. I don't think there was a single seat spare on that aircraft, and neither Sam nor I could work out where the business is for that. So clearly, there must be some business up there that justifies. Because as a member of the public, I wouldn't pay £700 for a 90-minute flight, and so it's not, as far as we know, an oil route like Norwegian type destinations. So if anybody knows, I'd love to know the answer. But it's clearly a very popular route, and they look like business people. I mean, I don't know how you tell, but they looked like business people as opposed to Sam and I, who were just there in our jeans, maybe. But and none of them asked for wine like I did.
The only thing that comes up to me, I think, might be connecting flights. Like
could
maybe
be
when it's part of a connecting flight, then like quite often that might be a lot cheaper. Like Flair Airlines is a low cost airline here in Western Canada. And they fly between Edmonton and Vancouver here. And they recently announced that they're going to add Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island, which is like a 20-minute flight in itself. Mm-hmm. And for that, they charge about $70 from Victoria to Vancouver. Okay. But then flying from Victoria to Vancouver to Edmonton, it's like $80. So right. It's probably something like that. But that's just an assumption, you know.
No, it could be. You may be right with that. So the point-to-point fare is really expensive, but maybe it is people coming off the Emirates flight or something that. Yeah, actually, that makes sense. That could be it. Yeah, that could be it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, very very popular route. I'm looking forward to trying it again next month, as I know Sam is. Yeah, he likes those smaller regional jets, I think. So and I did as well. I thought, this is not a Dash 8. Hallelujah! This is just not a Dash 8. It's just like. I'd rather fly on an ATR or the Embraer regional jets. I love those. I love those. Those the newer ones. Well, I like the older ones as well. So I used to fly on the 135 and 145 quite a lot between Leeds and Edinburgh back in the day with British Midland. But the newer ones, the 175s, the 195s, they're nice. They're nice regional jets, nice and quiet.
Quite large windows as well.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So you've got no middle seat and nice large windows, and very smooth aircraft to fly. So yeah, I like those. But yeah. If we ever get to meet in person, don't book us on a Dash 8 flight. Don't want to do that. No, don't like them. Don't like them at all.
Okay, sounds good. Now you mentioned you're gold, and I think you're also gold with Star Alliance.
I am. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You've been flying corporately for 20 years. How is it that you only reached gold status? Or in fact, I think last year, the beginning of last year, you were still blue.
Yeah, yeah. So
How is that
so
possible?
it's actually. So I think I'm trying to think back now. So this is the second year of gold with British Airways, and I've just turned over the second year of gold with Turkish Airlines, which is where I get my Star Alliance status from.
Yeah.
I think what's misunderstood, and I try to help people here, because getting airline status is actually quite easy as long as you play the game. So I went from blue to gold in 12 months with British Airways, and it's a lot easier than you'd think. So with British Airways, one of the ways to do it is they have what they call, well, they don't call them, it's in the Avgeek community, it's called the 80 tier point routes. So normally, if you're in Club Europe, you'll get 40 tier points. So if I'm in Club Europe between London and Manchester, I'll get 40 tier points so 80 tier points round trip. Mm-hmm. You need, in a normal year, you need 1,500 points to get BA Gold. So the work flights pretty much get me silver. So you only need 600 for silver. So you can imagine at 80 points a time, it doesn't take much to get silver, which will get you into the business class club world type lounges, the galleries, club lounges. But if you go on the further, the sort of longer Club Europe routes, the 80 tier point ones, to say Tenerife or Helsinki, which they're dropping unfortunately at the end of the year, you get 80 points per sector. Whoa. So 160 round trip. So actually, if you think about it, you only need to do 10 of those to get the gold. But the beauty is, of course, for me living in the north of England, to get to Heathrow, I also have to factor in an 80 tier point route between Manchester and London. So I'm getting on if I do an 80 tier point route, you're getting 160 for the longer route, plus 80 for the domestic sectors. So what's that? 240. So you don't have to do many of those to get gold. And that's how I did it with British Airways effectively. It's actually quite simple. And the beauty is, what's even better, is I never book a Club Europe flight, never ever book outright a Club Europe flight, because what British Airways do is they don't have a bid up system from economy to Club Europe. They do what's called proactive upgrades. Mm-hmm. So you book your flight, and then lo and behold, 99% of the time, 2 days later, in the British Airways app, it'll say, would you like to upgrade this flight for £49? So I'm doing Tenerife I've just booked it 2 days ago. I'm doing Tenerife in October for £260 because I've got the cheapest fare I possibly could in economy, waited 2 days for British Airways in the app to then say, do you want to upgrade for £69? In fact, I think it's 59 each way. So for 260 quid or something, I'm going to get that 240 tier points. Well, you can imagine you don't have to do many of those. And then if you factor in a long haul flight once or twice a year as well, the other way of doing it is, or to bolster your numbers even more, is do the Qatar Airways route. So for £1,100, that gives you 560 tier points. So you're already more than a third of the way there to gold status with British Airways. So you just have to play the game. A lot of people look at it and think, wow, 1,500 points. And then they go and then they say to me, but a Club Europe ticket to Helsinki is £700. Well, it is if you buy it outright. But actually, if you just start book economy and just hope that you get a proactive upgrade, it's not guaranteed, but 90% of the time you'll get that proactive upgrade for a song for next to nothing. And that's the way I've done it with OneWorld. The way I did it with Star Alliance is there's two airlines. If you want Star Alliance Gold, which is valuable, it really is, and I know Nick's into Star Alliance, is either sign up with Turkish Airlines or with Aegean Airways, the Greek airline, the Greek operator, because they have a much lower benchmark to hit gold. And so the way I did it with Turkish is, I think it's, to sign up, you have to have a certain number of points, but to renew, you only have to have 20,000 points per year. And the renewal threshold, 20,000 points, you can get in one trip if you tour Asia. So if you go from Manchester to Istanbul to Singapore, and then you do a few trips with, say, Thai Airways, you'll hit that gold renewal like that. It's dead easy. It's dead easy. But again, these are the things that people don't realize. And you just have to spend a bit of time on the websites like Flyer Talk to get that, to figure out how you get the gold status. And so now whenever I fly with like Lufthansa or with Austrian Airlines, you get access to the Senator Lounge, priority boarding. Austrian Airlines, like Lufthansa, has the bid up process. So I've put a bid in to get business class with them to Vienna. But it's not difficult. And again, I would say to any of your viewers, if somebody wants to know, if somebody wants to talk a bit more about how to get that top tier status, then just drop me a line. I'm happy to talk them through it. But like I said, I went, and as you've said, as you've identified, I went from blue to gold in 10 months, something like that. And it's quite easy to do. It's a lot easier than you'd think. And it does bring privileges. It does bring nice little touches that just make the journey just that bit easier. Yeah.
Because one thing I saw is that, and this is another video where New played a little bit of a role. That was your video where you flew from Miami through Charlotte to where'd you go? New York on the ex-US Airways A321 aircraft. And you actually were able to get lounge access there, weren't you?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
But if you're United, usually in the US, if you're flying domestically and you're in gold, you don't get lounge access, but you did get it with... And you'll have to pardon the language here, but if you are a US customer with status in any of the US airlines, you are going to be mightily pissed off with Europeans coming and getting lounge access. And that's true. That's what happens. So I flew start of this year, I flew Miami to Charlotte, up to New York, got lounge access into the flagship lounge with American Airlines. Now, you don't get that in the US unless you're flying transcon on a very small number of routes between the East and West Coast. So even if you've got Admirals Club membership, you're going to be limited to the Admirals Club lounges. Even if you've got top tier status with American, which is Executive Platinum, I'm not sure, something like that, you're still not going to get access to the Admirals Lounge. You have to have concierge key to get access to the Admirals Lounge, to the flagship lounge rather. But what happens in the US is if you're a non-American Airlines status member, the One World rules apply. So the One World rules say that if you've got the equivalent of gold in BA, you get access to the flagship lounges regardless of whether you're flying domestic, transcon, long haul, doesn't matter. So I got access to the Miami flagship lounge, which was excellent. The New York flagship lounge, which was really good. Loved the food. And I think I commented on the video, and this is true. So I was stood here, Robin, and I was about to sit down on my chair, like I'm sat here now. And a man and one of the lounge attendants said to me, stop. He said, I want to spray your chair first. I want to clean your chair before you sit down. This was at the New York flagship lounge in New York. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant. I said to him, I really appreciate you doing that. And then I've never had that before. I've never had anybody say to me, we need to spray your chair before you sit. I want to clean your chair before you sit down. And this guy said, is there anything I can get you and all that? And he was very obliging. And I said to him, no. I said, I'll just go and get, because I'm used to serving myself. I said, I'll just go and sort myself out. It's fine. But the lounge attendants couldn't have been more helpful. I got a really friendly welcome, because the thing is, when you read about American Airlines, they really get slated sometimes for some of the surly service that you have on board. Some of the flight attendants can be a bit standoffish, a bit cold. I found nothing but warmth and hospitality when I flew with American earlier this year, and I flew on 6 flights with them in about a week. And every flight, the flight attendant was really welcoming. On the 767 that I flew from JFK down to Miami, the flight attendant came through. I was in main cabin extra, which is a nice little mini cabin on the 767. Yeah.
And she brought me some warm nuts. She brought me some drinks, and she said, is there anything else I can get for you? To this day, I don't know why I got that, because she didn't offer it to anybody else in main cabin extra. Yeah, the cookie. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, Robin, I'm never going to turn down food or free drink, but I just like, to this day, I don't know why she lavished that service on me. But I got off that flight thinking, do you know what? That was a really good flight. And it was on the 767, which is one of my favorite aircraft of all time. I think it's a fabulous aircraft, that. But I just thought, I don't know why American gets such a hard time in the press, because I've never experienced that with them. I've always had really good service from them. And particularly on those shorter sectors that I did via Charlotte back up to JFK.
Yeah.
On the ex-US Airways aircraft, I got the extra leg room. They blocked off the middle seat, so I didn't have anybody sat next to me. And I just thought, and when I was flying back on the BA, the 747, and I just thought to myself, do you know what? I've had nothing but great service from American this week. And I was really impressed. Yeah, genuinely impressed.
I'm surprised you like them so much, because in your videos, you time and time again, you call yourself a creature of habit.
Yes, I am.
And you like having consistency in product, whereas American, out of all US carriers, or any carrier really, has such an inconsistent hard product on in their fleet and aircraft.
Yeah. I think when I say I'm a creature of habit, I think I like to. It's a good question, actually. That. So I think for me, it's what's the best way? I don't want to sound snobbish here at all. So it's just like, I really don't. I genuinely don't. So I think I'm just going to have to say it as it is. I think for me is when I view status, right? So I've got the one world status, and I've worked. I've played the game to get it, but I've got it at the end of the day. However you get it, I've abided by the rules. I've not bent any rules. I've not broken any rules or any laws to get that. And I think that with that, when American or British Airways or any airline says, Mr. Smith, you will get priority one access to board, you'll get this, you'll get that, then that's what I expect. And anything that doesn't deliver falls below that expectation for me. So, so if I'd like to be able to get on board an aircraft and know what to expect. So one of the things that you read on Flyer Talk is that 747 I got back from New York, the daytime service, I think it's BA 187 or 178, something like that. A lot of people were saying it's a difficult flight to cater for in Club World because they try to put a special meal on, but it's not as if you can give somebody a steak at 11 o'clock in the morning, because who wants that? I'll take the wine, but not the steak. But it's, and I thought, do you know what? That's going to be difficult. But somebody else said, look, you get breakfast, you get sausages, eggs, bacon, a chicken breast, doesn't it? And so my expectations were set. And so when I say I'm a creature of habit, as long as my expectations are met, I think I'm not an unreasonable person. But what does upset me, what does throw me out completely, and this is where I'm a bit, if you watch The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper, then the Sheldon Cooper of me comes out when something doesn't happen, when they'll come over the tannoy and they might say, we've run out of food, which has happened on a British Airways flight before, or we couldn't give you this or that, because I think airlines these days, the service that you get on airlines these days isn't as good as it used to be. Mm-hmm. So you get what you get, and you're grateful for it. So anything that falls short of that blows my mind a little bit, Robin, to be honest. But other than that, I think I'm quite a reasonable person. But I do expect the status benefits when they, when they're promised. I expect them to be given.
It's actually a fantastic segue into a little clip that I want to show of one of your videos. It's of your British Airways flight.
General Grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Overall, it just wasn't British Airways that I've got used to. And so in that, you can read into that that's actually a compliment, because I've flown with British Airways probably 110, 120 times in the last 2 years. And that's the one and only BA flight that I've got off and I've thought, that was pretty rubbish. And I think the experience that I had when I got to the airport just set me off on a bad mood for the rest of the flight. And I think, there's a certain element of human nature. If you start off your day bad, that, if whoever you're travelling with or whatever company, the first impressions bit is very important. And so there I was with my gold card, massive fan of British Airways, by the way. turned up to the F-wing and was told very clearly, and I've had comments on Twitter that doubted this, but let me be very clear, there was no chance that they were going to let me even queue up if I wanted to at the F-wing. It was a case of do one, which wasn't great. Not helped by then, of course, the fast track by Heathrow being closed as well. And I do value the F-wing facility. I think it's a massive benefit to people who've got gold or travel in first class.
So, what happened
there you
there,
go.
Neil?
So what happened there was, and that's a perfect example of the creature of habit. So,
Well
two
said,
things
by the way,
happened.
there. Beautifully said there.
Yeah, you think so?
Yes.
Okay, I'm pleased to hear that, because I do try to bring balance when I'm criticizing something. And actually, it's rare that I do that, because I do genuinely like British Airways. But I think two things happened there, and that's the creature of habit in me. And people will criticize me for this. Is one of the perks of the gold status is you get something called F-wing lounge at Heathrow. So F-wing access. So British Airways, for their first class passengers and gold card holders, have a special check-in area, as well as
this is right.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So this is pre-flight. So you go to check in at Heathrow T5. You can check in a segregated area for first or gold. You then get direct access into the gallery's first lounge at T5. So you bypass all the shops and all that nonsense. And that day it was so busy, they turned me away from that. And what made it doubly worse was when I went to the premium check-in, that was closed as well. So they have a business class security area as well. That was closed. So it took me 40 minutes to get through security. And I started getting really pompous and on my high horse. So I was like, this isn't why I've got a gold card. And I was like, and I went into that, and I don't ever normally do this. I went into that mental frame of, don't you know who I am? And I hate that. When you see other people playing that don't you know who I am card, I just hate that, Robin. But I thought, I've never had this before. I wasn't expecting it. My expectations weren't met. Now, fortunately, I put that onto Twitter angrily. I can actually imagine I was typing so hard. I was so angry. So I typed it on Twitter and I said, you can't believe what's just happened to me. And actually, it was Alexis Karfopoulos, Karfa he's known as. You'll have come across him.
Oh, yes.
I follow
him on Twitter.
Yeah. He's a very frequent BA, a gold guest list holder. I've met him a few times. He's got me into the Concorde Lounge once or twice. Thoroughly nice chap. And he actually calmed me down and he said, listen, I've got gold guest list. And he said, sometimes they do that with me as well. And suddenly it was put into perspective. So let me be clear, Robin. This is a first world problem. I get that. And somebody said that to me, I think, that get a grip kind of thing. And actually, it's fair feedback. It is fair feedback. The F-wing is at Heathrow. Again, it's an absolute godsend because it saves you so much time, because otherwise you have to walk around all the shops to get back, to loop back on yourself to get into the lounges. But for some reason, it was just busy that day. And it wasn't as if they said to me, it's busy, Mr. Smith, but please, if you want to queue, you can do. It was just, no, go away. And that's what upset me a little bit. The other thing that then happened was, on board the flight down to Madrid on the 777, this plane was just falling to bits, as the 777s are with British Airways. The other thing is, they forgot my meal. So, and when I got on, do you know what? The thing is, sometimes you get, not very often, but sometimes you get a personalised welcome on board if you're a gold card holder. On the iPads, it tells the crew that you're a gold card holder. So, sometimes you'll get that personalised service. And sure enough, it happened. So the girl came up to me when I was sat at the gate and said to me, welcome back, Mr. Smith. It's nice to see you again. Can I take your lunch order? So I thought, brilliant. I gave her the lunch order. Did I see it? No, all I wanted was chicken and a glass of wine, and nothing turned up. Unfortunately, an eagle-eyed flight attendant, a different person, halfway, we were around the Bay of Biscay by this point, halfway to Madrid. She said to me, are you waiting for a meal? And I said, well, I am, yeah. And so they brought it, but it was rushed because the flight started descending as I was finishing my meal. So overall, let's quantify this, but overall it wasn't great. But it was 1 in 200 flights in 2 years I've taken with them, which was not great. The other 199 had been spot on perfect. And the other thing I'll say about BA crew is, when you get the good ones, it's fabulous. The service is outstanding. I flew back from Helsinki back in January, and I got obviously an experienced crew, although I've had some of the younger crews be just as good. And these two, so the thing with Helsinki, it was purely a tier point run.
Yeah.
So I flew up to Helsinki in the evening, and on the evening flight to Helsinki, it stays in Helsinki. So it's the same crew that come back the next morning. So I was on back-to-back, literally, well, overnight, not quite back-to-back, but it was the same crew on the way back. And she said, were you not on our flight yesterday? And I said, I was, and I explained. And the girl said, we get so many tier point runners at this time of the year when people are trying to renew the status, so they don't drop to silver. So anyway, from that point on, she just kept bringing me red wine, just glass after glass, even as we're descending. And I don't know if it's the same in Canada, but here in the UK, when you're descending, when the seatbelt light's on, they have to give you a plastic cup. You're not allowed to drink out of a glass. So she took the glass, similar to this, and poured it into a plastic cup for me. And she said, do you want another one? And this was when we were descending into Heathrow. So I was like, I could barely stand up when we got off the plane. And and I just thought, this is brilliant. And you know what? It was dead simple. It didn't cost British Airways a fortune to make me really happy that day. And I swear to, it's that flight was one of the best ones I've ever had, because the crew took a personal interest, and that was all it took. And it was just, they were genuinely interested in why I was flying on the same flight back the night after. And I just explained it was the tier point run. And she said, she said, we get so many customers who do the tier point runs at this time of the year, because obviously people don't want to drop to silver. And so we had a bit of a laugh about it. But from that point on, she just brought me more and more and more red wine. And the cabin service manager, Greg, I remember the guy's name because I sent them both when the service is really good on BA. Yeah, compliment. You can send them like a gold voucher type thing, a compliment. And so I sent that on to British Airways, and I hope they got that, because it to me, it's like, I'm not a diva. I don't expect everybody to worship me when I get on board. But it's just the little things. If you get that gold welcome to say it's nice to see you back, it does make you feel special, doesn't it? Let's face it. It does. It really does. So, I really enjoyed that flight. But going back to the original point, I think British Airways, to me, is an airline that I'm really proud to fly with. I love flying with BA. I think the service on the whole is fantastic. Like any company, it's going to have its off days. I order stuff on Amazon. Sometimes it doesn't show up next day. Well, you tend to think, 99% of the time it just works, and it works so beautifully well. But yeah, I think that flight stands out as a great flight. But that one that we just featured a minute ago, the Madrid flight, that was the one flight that I was in a bad mood when I got off the aircraft that day. I'll be honest. It just happens.
And I still think you did a pretty well job of keeping a balanced outro there.
I tried to. Yeah.
And it was, I think it just was well said. I even wrote it down here. Certain elements of human nature. So
yeah, it is. It is.
But another really good flight that you had last year, and it is one that we already discussed. Kind of, you started talking about it. Austrian, an airline that would not be on top of my list of flying. Like,
yeah.
I might have flown it like once over 10 years ago. I don't even remember. But you had a really good experience. So I want to show a quick clip from that video that you had.
Okay.
Because as well, it's an outro of your video that you did there. Can you confirm if you see this the YouTube here?
It did work last time. There we go. We're good.
There you go. So this is a short clip of your Austrian Airlines Euro business class video. So let's go watch a couple seconds here.
So just stepped off the Austrian Airlines business class trip back from Vienna, and I have to say, wow, really, wow, I am so impressed with Austrian Airlines. The attentiveness to detail, I love the little gold edged handles on the cup, and fantastic. If you're a creature of comfort like I am and crave consistency, then having flown on a couple of Austrian Airlines, both in economy and business the last couple of days, it's been excellent, really top notch. I'd say if you just have to give it a go, give them a go. I really enjoyed it. Possibly, definitely amongst the best of the European carriers that I've ever flown on, but possibly the best. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about it some more, but really wow. I was just bowled over by the service, by the aircraft. It was so clean. The service, the red wine, which I've had lots to drink. They just, as soon as the glass started getting empty, they bring you some more. So I can't recommend it highly enough, as you can tell. I really enjoyed it. I've loved flying with Austria in the last few days. So on that note, on that high note, I'll see you on the next video.
Interesting, because you'd never hear anyone talk about Austrian, to be honest.
You don't. And I didn't mean to be on that flight. So it happened quite by chance. What happened was, that was one of the last sectors I did before the lockdown. So I was due to fly to Berlin with Lufthansa. And what happened was, in the week leading up to that flight, Lufthansa cancelled the flight. And what they did was even worse than that. And I think I mentioned it on this video actually, is they put me onto a flight connecting in Frankfurt that left 20 minutes before my connecting flight inbound. So I would never have made it. And I tried to get through to Lufthansa. This was when lockdown was starting to kick in. So I tried to get through to Lufthansa, couldn't get them on social media, couldn't get them by phone, by email. So I just thought, I'll sort the refund out later and I'll find another flight. So I literally went onto Google Flights and said, where can you take me this weekend from Heathrow? And this flight popped up. So I thought, Dan Hornett, who's another frequent flyer, you've seen him on Twitter.
Yeah, I speak with him quite regularly.
Okay, yeah. Very nice chap. So he's in Billund with us next month.
Oh, really?
And yeah.
Oh.
So he'll feature on the video. So Dan obviously has family in Austria, and so I thought, I must give Vienna a try. So this flight came up really cheap. It was £69 return, and so but I booked it, and then it said, "Do you want to bid up for another £50 for business class?" So I thought, well, for 120 quid return, why not? So I did, and I think what I loved about it was not just, again, the flight attendant brought me so much red wine on the way back that I loved. You can tell Austrian Airlines is a product of consistency. So you can tell they time everything down to perfection. So I flew to Vienna in economy, flew back in business class, and I have to say the service, from a consistency perspective, was just as good in both classes. And what I liked about the economy product was you got a glass of juice. They did 2 trolley runs between Heathrow and Vienna. You got some little biscuits, which I feature in the video. But on the way back, they brought you actual teacups. And I have a thing for actual teacups. So it was a little gold. And I remember Blake saying, I didn't believe you had got gold. You would get gold. He didn't believe me. But fortunately, I recorded it. And so I got the gold teacups. And then I got a really excellent meal, very tasty, high quality. Not the hugest meal in the world, not the biggest meal, but it was good quality. And of course, I always judge a flight by how well I can stand up when I get off at the other side. and that one, I was literally crawling to immigration because I could barely stand up, because they must have served me a bottle of wine in about 60 minutes. And so
especially at 40,000 feet.
Exactly, yeah. It has a much more profound effect on you, doesn't it, when you're drinking red wine at that altitude? So when I made that comment, I'm surprised I was able to string that sentence actually. But it was just, it was I'm thinking back now. It's like, but they gave me, if you look on the video, they gave me this little, what appears to be some kind of clothes peg, and to this day I don't know what that is. I don't know why they give you that, but it came with the meal service. So I presume it's something maybe to store your napkin, or I don't know. But
do you get some like a crisp packet or?
No, it was all. There was no packets of anything. It was just, well, I suppose the salt and pepper was, but I don't know why you get that, Robin. But I featured that in the video. But anyway, it was a great flight. It was a really good flight, and actually I would love to, once COVID is eased, I would love to try a long haul flight with them, because if that's anything to go by, and I think I may have mentioned it at the time.
Yes.
It's service like that would swing me back to Star Alliance. Put it that way. It was so good. It was so good. And I just felt that the cabin was nice and modern. The flight attendants were very attentive. I couldn't fault it. It was one of those flights I just couldn't fault. As an airline, it was fabulous. Yeah.
And it was really that outro that you recorded there, even though it was probably a little bit drunk. And it really struck with me because Austrian, to me, they're like an underdog. They're part of the Lufthansa group, but it's always Lufthansa and Swiss that take the stage.
Yes.
And you never hear anyone about Austrian or Edelweiss. But it really, that video actually made me think that next time I'm back in Europe, that I'll actually try to fly with Austrian.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll try it together. See what you think. Yeah. I would say, and as I said on the video, just give them a go because, as you said, they really are the unsung heroes of the Lufthansa group, in my opinion. And yet, when I was so impressed with it, I did some more research after the flight, and everybody said, like you've just said there, Robin, everybody's heard of Swiss, everybody's heard of Lufthansa. Even everybody's heard of airlines like Air Dolomiti and all these airlines, but actually Austrian just doesn't ever get that PR that it should. And it was such a good service. It was absolutely brilliant, and I would love to fly them long haul sometime. 100%.
That's really, really like a hidden gem, really.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you do get across to Europe, then give them a go. Yeah.
Like I'm looking to fly to Europe in September to pay my family a visit because by that time I haven't seen them for almost a year. With the whole COVID and stuff that has happened. So I'm supposed to fly in September to Gatwick if that all goes through with no problems. And I haven't organized any travel beyond Gatwick. I have to get to either Amsterdam or Rotterdam or Eindhoven, if you will, somewhere in Holland in the end.
Okay.
How I get there, I don't care so much about. So
well, there we go.
That might be either something non-stop or direct, or through Vienna maybe. So
through Vienna, yeah. Well, I can highly recommend them. An excellent airline.
Fantastic. Yeah. Also, something that we have in common, and you already mentioned it. I'm not sure if that was before we started recording or right now. Is the TWA hotel that you've been in, and also of that, I want to show a little clip. Can you confirm if you can see the YouTube here?
There we go. We're good.
Excellent.
Yes.
So here's we posted around the same time. I was there because I was flying Cathay Pacific, so I paid it a visit. You, however, actually went the extra mile, and you emptied your wallet. You took out your savings, and you actually stayed for a night. Let's go watch a couple seconds here.
Standing at the rooftop swimming pool, ladies and gents, I'm feeling just as good as I'm looking. As you can see, it's a fabulous evening, but I've had too much to drink and the pool's too full to go swimming, so I'll do that tomorrow morning. So I make my way to the Paris Cafe where I have a reservation for dinner at 7:45. I have soup, a burger and a glass of wine. And I have to say, the hotel's interpretation of all three was, well, a burger, soup and a glass of wine, as you'd expect. Unexpectedly though, I get the bill, and it's $70. That's right, $70. After dinner, I go exploring again and find these superb conferencing facilities. One day, when this channel becomes big enough, I'm going to hold an AvGeek conference here, and the good news is, you'll all be invited.
And I stand by that. I still stand by that. And I think just looking at that video, Robin, I think it almost makes me tearful at what's happened since. I think I was in such a good mood when I was at that hotel. I thought it was fabulous. I think as somebody, and I think I mentioned this in the video, as somebody who does, I do look back in my life and I think I've had some really highs and like everybody, highs and lows. And I think, one of the highs is remembering when I travelled as a child, when the Lockheed TriStar was king, the DC-9s were king for the short hauls. And I think just being at the TWA hotel reminded me of that. And it was it was almost emotive, really. And I think I look back at that trip with such fond memories, and to think it was only, 5 or 6 months ago. The world's changed so much. And I think, clearly $70 for a burger and chips is a bit steep. But I did expect that. People had said, who'd been before, the TWA hotel was quite expensive in every respect, and it is. But, the rooftop pool, and I'm so glad you didn't show the top of the chest, me wandering around in the swimming pool, which you could have done, but you didn't, thankfully. But I think, and the rendition of the burger and chips, the reason I said that, and I have to say this just in case anybody's wondering, is because Paul Lucas, who obviously is another Avgeek and another vlogger, a very successful vlogger, in fact.
Who I hope to have on the podcast sometime soon.
Well, that'd be good, yeah, if you could get Paul on. Yeah, I think he said he'd got fish and chips, and the fish did look a bit weird, so he said the rendition was quite different to what he expected, because clearly here in Britain, fish and chips is a big thing.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of comical quip that I put in there, which was, to me, it was a burger and chips. That's what I ordered. That was what I got. But yes, it was expensive, and I think I probably in that one night, with including accommodation, it probably cost me in the region of $300, which for one night is expensive. But like I also said, it's New York prices, and where else in Manhattan are you going to stay for that kind of money? You'd pay the same, probably more. I've spent £200 sterling a night in a modest hotel in downtown New York before. But nice place to visit.
It is such a fantastic place, and then just to think that was the actual terminal, and like I've seen it before. One of my favorite all-time movies, obviously, is Catch Me If You Can, which has been recorded right there when it was still an active terminal.
Yeah,
incredible to think that used to be the TWA terminal right there. It's incredible. So I do really love that they protected that and that they turn it into a hotel so that we can all enjoy it.
Yeah,
I think the prices are a little bit steep. Like that's $70. Was that including a glass or a bottle of red wine?
That was just one glass of wine. Yeah, yeah.
And then inside Connie in the cocktail bar, I think it was $16 or $18 for
a cocktail. And I had a few of those. So when I got the thing is, it's actually for somebody who drinks like anybody who drinks alcohol. Giving in the US, I've noticed it in the US. Although obviously I hope my credit card issuer never sees this, but you leave your credit card with them, and that's something we don't do in Europe. So it's
perfectly normal in the US.
Yeah, and it's not something we're familiar with here. So the guy said, "Do you want to open a tab?" So I thought, in the UK, you normally just swipe your card and that's fine. But he said, "No, you leave your card with us." And I'm thinking, crikey, that's just like for fraud and stuff. It's unheard of in Europe, and certainly in the UK anyway. And so, of course, the double effect of that is when you leave your card, they'll bring you as many drinks as you want without questioning it. And of course, by the time you've had 4 or 5 of those cocktails, and they were quite strong, you sign the bill and you don't actually care what you're signing for. So it's like, I think the bill was about $120 for those cocktails that I had. And when I didn't realize until I got back and I got my credit card statement, I thought, bloody hell, that was quite pricey, wasn't it? And of course, in the UK, I'm from Yorkshire, a region called Yorkshire, which is notorious for being frugal and tight-fisted and not people who spend money generally. And
you'd go to Wetherspoons for a good night out.
I would go for Wetherspoons for a good night out. Yeah, you can have a good night out in Wetherspoons for a tenner, and I was quite happy to pay that. But yeah, I paid. I think the bill, including taxes from the Connie, from those cocktails that I had, was about $120. And
then they expect like a 20% tip as well.
Oh yeah. When I looked at the receipts, which I found next day in one of my pockets, it was like they stick 10 or 15% on, and it's like, you just think I'm okay giving a tip for great service, and the service was good. To be fair, you know, the chap was very nice, but still, $120 for 5 drinks is a bit steep, even at, you know, even in New York. But then again, I look back and I think, yeah, looking at that video, I'd forgotten about that. Actually, it was it was a great trip generally, and I loved staying at that hotel. But yeah, wow, cost a lot of money that trip. Yeah.
No, I think it's such a great thing, the TWA hotel, and I would love to stay there because you had a phenomenal view on the ramp at the airport. Yeah.
The charge extra for that, charge extra for everything, but
sure.
it was worth it because, as you saw in the video, I had such a great view, and I was on I think the 5th floor, and the swimming pool is on the 7th floor. So it's not a particularly high building, but you got about as good a views as you can get. And I know that when others reviewed it, so other fellow AvGeeks reviewed and excluding yours, but I think others that I've looked at were quite critical of it. And so I wasn't expecting much.
I think Paul Lucas was quite critical.
He was critical of it. And I think when I stayed there, I thought, this is not what I was expecting. This is much better than I was expecting. I thought, you know, it to me, would I stay there again? Yes. And I was going to stay there again in September had Virgin not cancelled my flight. And I will go there again, Robin, and I would stay there every time I went to New York if I didn't need to be downtown. I think because to me, it's just, like you said, that film, Catch Me If You Can. What a great film it was, and I've seen that a few times myself. And just to see that red carpet and to be in that tunnel, it's just amazing, isn't it? It really is. And I couldn't quite. And I think I spoke to Neil actually at the time, and I said, you've got to visit this place. I think, you know, I said to Neil, it's just amazing. And I didn't really know him that well at that time, but I would love to, like I said, hence the comment is, if my channel ever gets big enough, I'm just going to book one of those conference rooms and just organise an AvGeek conference for us all to go there so that we can all meet up in what would be fantastic. There's no better surrounding if you're an AvGeek than to visit the TWA hotel. I just thought it was brilliant, superbly put together. Yes, it's expensive, but who cares when you're so passionate about a subject like we are? It was just a great place to be, and quite timely that you and I launched our videos at the same day. I think you beat me by about 2 or 3 hours in terms of launching your review of it. But I think your review summed up pretty much the same as my thoughts, which were a great place to be.
I tagged it onto my Cathay Pacific flight.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
A funny thing is, because I have friends in New York, so I can stay with them anytime that I want. So I don't actually have to spend any money on hotels.
Wow. That'll save you a fortune.
Even better. But my friend that day, I think it was a weekday, he had to go to work. So I figured I'll just go to the airport early. I was flying on Cathay first because I spent all the Avios that I had left over on that flight. Fantastic flight. I'm so sad that they suspended that route between JFK and YVR. But I got to JFK, I think Terminal 5, and I got to the Cathay Pacific check-in desks, and they weren't open yet. 6 hours before my flight, and I was like, "What am I gonna do?" I expected this time to be in the lounge, and I know. Usually, when you try to check in online, especially if there's like visas and stuff involved, if you're crossing a border, usually you can't check in online, and you have to go to a desk to show someone a visa or a passport and to show that you're visa exempt. Except for this time. So I was extremely lucky that I was able to check in on my phone and go through and then go to that to the flagship lounge, which is, you already said it. It's phenomenal. Even better in the flagship dining, first dining.
Oh, you got to try flagship dining as well, didn't you? That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
I drank way too much in the flagship dining. They just kept bringing the Krug.
You're preaching to the converted. Yeah, that's fine. No need to apologise. It's fine. Yeah. And the Krug as well. What's that? I mean, in the UK, Krug must be what? I don't know, 70, £100 a bottle, maybe more. I don't know how much is it. Do you know how much it is?
I
It's
don't
very
know.
expensive. No, I don't think you do. But I never got to try the flagship dining. It's like in a glassed off. It's like in a frozen glass type door, isn't it?
In your video, you walk past the door. Indeed, there's like a sign in front of it, and then a sliding door with blinded windows.
Right.
And then they have these little tables, small tables for people who are traveling by themselves.
Okay.
One seat only, and a view on the ramp. So I had an American Airlines 777 sitting in front of me, and it's fantastic.
Happy Larry.
Ate too much, drank too much, but it was a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, well, why not?
And still, I need to thank Billy Gilbert, who was on the first
your first video,
episode.
Yeah.
Yes, the first episode of the podcast. Because without him, I wouldn't have taken that experience in the first place. Because he was the one who told me that they were going to suspend that route. So I booked it immediately, and then I heard, because I was actually planning to book it a little later, that if I had booked it later, I wouldn't have had the chance at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that was lucky then. That was very lucky.
Yeah. So that was a fantastic experience. And I can't believe that that's only 6 months ago now.
I know. And the world's changed so much in that time, hasn't it? That's the thing. And when you look back, I think the reason for it is that back then you were free to do whatever you wanted. You know, we live in a free world. We're very lucky to live like that. And you know, if you want to fly somewhere, you pay your fare, you jump on a plane, and you just go. And that's the thing. And now I think, you know, I've got flights booked, like I said earlier, every month between now and the end of the year. But who knows if I'll be able to take all of those flights, because governments may put restrictions on, countries will go into lockdown. The UK government may change entry requirements, exit requirements even. And 6 months ago, we took that for granted. That's the thing. And that's why it seems like a lifetime ago.
And that's what Dennis said as well. You need to ask permission from the Australian government to even leave the country. And then yesterday, the UK government announced that they require quarantine again coming back from Spain.
That's right. So
yeah. There's such uncertainty going on, and that's terrible.
It is, and it's really sad for people like you and I and the other aviation enthusiasts, because this is what we've built our lives around. And I have, and I'm probably like you, is, you know, not every spare penny I've got, but certainly, you know, a lot of money I spend every year between alcohol and flying. And to me, and it's a simple life, Robin. It's a simple. I'm not a complex person. It's a simple requirement. It's a simple ask is, I like to be able to fly. I like red wine. It's as simple as that. And the red wine hopefully will keep flowing as long as flights come back from South Africa, or Australia, in fact. But I think it does worry me that flying at the moment is seen as a luxury item, if it's even possible. And I hope that by next summer we'll be over the worst of it. And I think, you know, COVID will probably be with us forever. I'm not an epidemiologist, but I think COVID, like any virus, will be with us forever, but it will be less prevalent. And I really hope that's the case. And I don't mind flying with a mask. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'll do anything that the airlines need me to do as long as I can fly. Because my worst nightmare scenario is for somebody who enjoys traveling so much, like you, like others, is somebody just says, right, that's it. No more flying. You've got a bike. There you go. Like, yeah, that's fine. Bike's going to get me fit. It's not going to bring me any pleasure. But I think that's the worry I have, is the next few years is I hope that flying at the airlines come back in 2 or 3 years' time to where we've been before. I really do, because I would miss flying too much. I do miss flying, 4 months in, like climbing the walls. So, yeah.
And the other thing that I kind of worry about is that the airlines were all built based on a capacity that they were able to fill. So they'd have the amount of flights based on the capacity that they would have based on, it's demand, right? It's based on demand.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
and
correct.
there's none.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like that for a long while, and that we're going to be losing airlines airfares are going to go up. Who knows? Are we going to have a business class in the future?
I don't know. I hope so, but you think there's all sorts of conspiracy theories about what caused COVID, and we could spend all night talking about this, of course. But I hope that business class and first class remains as a product for airlines, because there'll always be people, and let's face it, I've worked really hard for 20 years since I left university, 24 years in fact.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked really, really hard, and nothing's been too much trouble. I've committed myself to one company. I've only ever worked for one company. In 24 years, to deliver what they needed of me, whatever the time of day is. I work in incident management. That's what I do. So it is a 24/7 job, and at times, and I think I'm in a position where I've worked really hard to be able to pay for business class and first class fares. Be under no illusion about that. That's the benefit of working really hard and committing yourself and sacrificing your life to a job, which is what I've done. And I hope that in exchange for that, somebody's not going to come to me and say, right, from now on, there's no business class, there's no first class. All you can do is fly economy. And there's nothing wrong with flying economy. I do fly with Ryanair myself. But I think you have to take it in perspective. And when I go on special trips, I like to pay a bit extra for those business class and first class flights, like I said earlier. And I have no problem with that. But I hope that emerging from COVID, we still have the option to buy those premium services. And I think we will. I can't imagine British Airways being an all-economy airline, because you might as well just fly with Ryanair in that case. Yeah. But, like I said, there's nothing wrong with flying with Ryanair. I do fly Ryanair myself. I'm not that snobbish, but Ryanair is good for a purpose. If you want to get somewhere cheap, sometimes I do. That's fine. Ryanair is great. Bargain bucket, cheap as chips, and I'm happy. As I put in one of my videos with Ryanair.
You did, yes.
Yeah, it's perfectly good. It's a good airline, perfectly good, safe airline to fly with. And I have no qualms getting on board a Ryanair aircraft, not one bit. Flown with Southwest in the US, another
Fantastic.
Fine airline. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yeah, you get what you pay for. You know what you and this is where the consistency comes out in me, the creature of habit. Yeah. With Southwest Airlines, I flew from Oakland to Las Vegas, and it was everything I expected it to be. And they even brought me a free drink and nuts, which you don't get on Ryanair. So it's I think as long as you get what you expect, what you pay for, that's fine. As long as my expectations are met, I'm happy. Yeah.
I'm starting to feel the wine a little bit.
Oh, I am as well. Yeah, I've just drunk. Let me have a look. I've drunk most of it now. Actually, that's shameful, isn't it? I'll have to open a second bottle. Oh, there you go. You're not far off of myself. And I cracked open the bottle before I came on the video. So it's but you can't go through a Sunday night. Well, what time is it there for you now? It's 10 past 12.
10 past 1.
10 past 1. Right. So you've got the rest of the day to look forward to. Yeah.
Yes. I don't think I'm going to continue drinking after the podcast, though.
No, probably not. No.
I'll have a headache tomorrow at work.
Never mind. It's all in a good cause.
I certainly do enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good fun, actually. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but I do want to move on to the questions from viewers.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, goodness me.
Believe it or not, but we're almost an hour and a half in already.
Are we? Oh, we are. Goodness me. Yeah. It's true what they say. It's like Dennis said, we do like talking about ourselves, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. So with every podcast episode, I announce all my guests on my social media. So if you do want to know who the next guest on the show is going to be, make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, where I will share every single podcast guest. And you also get the chance to send in questions for the guest today, which you have also done for Neil. So Neil, I do have a couple questions that were sent by some of your viewers.
Okay.
Starting off with the first one from check-in_aviation. And he's asking, or she's asking, Emirates, Qatar, or Etihad? Who's the best in each class?
I think that's quite a simple answer for me, because out of those three airlines, I would like to have sat here and said Qatar, but I haven't flown them because I had to cancel the flight. So I have flown with Emirates business class, which is when I went on my honeymoon a few years ago on the A380 from Manchester to Dubai, and then we flew on their 777 in business class from Dubai down to Mauritius. And I have to say it was excellent. Back then, the A380 had just been introduced into service, so they were still trying to find their feet. So the good example I can give you here, because I remember it well, is I ordered some kind of fruitcake type dessert, and they brought me chocolate cake, which I don't like. I don't like chocolate cake at all. And that took 40 minutes to arrive. But that's because with the intro of the A380, they'd taken on a lot of younger staff, a lot of new staff. So I can't tell you what Etihad, I've never flown with them. But what I can say is Emirates business class is excellent. 100%. Highly recommend them. Yes. And
then isn't Qatar a little biased being a One World member?
It probably is, yeah. And I mean, the truth of it is, I would imagine if I'd have taken that Qatar flight, which I was hoping to take, that I would probably have been sat here waxing lyrical about Qatar Airways. There's no doubt about it, because I would have made not just actually experienced the Q suite, but also got the 560 tier points. So, you know, and I still will fly with Qatar Airways next year, perhaps, hopefully. It's on the bucket list. But yeah, Qatar Airways probably would have been biased because it's part of One World.
And it was the same with Blake as well when he was on a podcast. Like, he just got off an Etihad flight. So he was obviously very fond of Etihad right after. But that's just the buzz right after if you get off a flight.
I think that the Middle East carriers, no doubt, provide really good service. I think that's I think that, you know, people have said to me Qatar Airways, when in irregular operations, when things go wrong, they're not so good. But I think the product, the hard product and the soft product on board is supposed to be excellent. And certainly Emirates is, as I said, and Qatar Airways by all accounts is as well. I think the problem is that all of those airlines have lost so much money over the last few years because they provide a service at such a high cost that actually it's proven that the Middle East carriers, whilst yes, they offer an excellent service, can't do it profitably. So whether it's sustainable longer term, I don't know. But you read about some of the cost cutting that they've done, and you think, I don't even know if British Airways would do that under Alex Cruz, and he's a notorious cost cutter. So you know,
I love the Alex Cruz parody Twitter account.
Yeah, it's Senor Alex Cruz. I do laugh at that. I do. The guy lives. So I met about 18 months ago. I met Speedbird Julie, who's on Twitter as well, a very active Twitter.
Chin Chin.
Yep, Chin Chin. Absolutely, yes. She likes the bubbles, and she speaks to whoever Senor Alex Cruz is, and he lives in Jersey. Apparently, he's a not the real Alex Cruz, the fake one. But his account just makes me howl sometimes. Some of the things he writes, and he's been on. It's sometimes I'll just put something on Twitter like, "Got a great upgrade this morning, free of charge up to Club Europe," and he'll write something back and just a witty.
Who am I going to fire today?
Yeah, who am I going to fire today? That's right. Yeah. Somebody's going to get fired in the morning. And I look at it and I think, that guy's a genius. Do you know what? I mean, that's a guy I would love to meet. I would love to meet fake Alex Cruz sometime. If he's watching this, I would love to. I'll fly to Jersey and come and meet you. I'd love to have a drink with him, because he must just prowl the British Airways feed and just look for opportunities to insult people. I think it's just so funny.
Well, what was it a while back as well with BA? There was one of their staff who did her Twitter. What's her name? Not Karen, Kate. Someone, she called out one of the people who called out British Airways.
Right.
Do you remember that happening?
I'm trying to think what happened. Just tell me what happened. I may have done.
Someone complaining, and she just stood ground. Like,
Oh
remember that?
yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. She was very on point with the customer. Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember the exact details, but that was fantastic.
Um, I don't remember the exact details, but I remember it because the rumor was that she'd been taken off the case for a while.
Exactly.
She'd been taken off the social media feed because she was so honest with the customer, and I
And
can't
then
remember
so
the
many people were
circumstances.
cheering for her.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was almost a campaign, wasn't it, to reinstate her? And she did then appear, didn't she, further on, if it was the same person, because she'd responded to a customer a few weeks later, so she was back, and then everybody was applauding because she was back. But I remember at the time thinking, and I can't remember the circumstances, but I remember thinking, good on you for saying that, because the
Yeah.
customer was clearly wrong in what he or she was saying. And I thought, fair enough, that was a fair response. And I think sometimes on social media, and we see it with my company, is we are so nervous about being honest with the customer because we never want to say the customer's wrong,
Yeah.
that it almost becomes political, and it becomes so ridiculous that you can see the customer's wrong. Everybody can see the customer's wrong, but we have to toe the line. And so I thought about that person, that girl, and I remember it now, and I can't remember the circumstances, but I just thought, you know what, good on you for saying that. I thought that's fair enough, because sometimes customers just have to be told. It's the truth, isn't it? Sometimes customers are wrong, and on this one, he or she was. So, yeah,
That was
but I can't remember the
fantastic.
circumstances.
Yeah. We digress, though.
We digress. Yeah.
Next one's from Toronto, Pearson Air Spotter. Kevin, thank you so much for sending in another question. We can always count on you for questions. He's asking, with many airlines giving credit from canceled flights in March, what percentage do you think will expire? Well, it's a tough one.
As in, people won't use the vouchers. Is that what he
Yeah.
means? Okay. Well, thanks, Kevin, for the question. I think I myself have a KLM voucher to use at the moment, which is convertible to cash in 12 months, apparently. Now, I fully intend to use that voucher because, as you and I were talking about earlier, Robin, the only airline that's operating, well, there's two airlines from my local airport, Humberside, which is literally 10 minutes from where I live, is KLM, which
Yeah.
is a gateway to the world. So it's a really convenient, it's expensive to fly from Humberside, but and Eastern Airways. But I think with KLM, it was the connecting flight that I was supposed to take up to Oslo for the Qatar flight, but KLM cancelled it. So they said, take the voucher. And I was in no mood to argue with them. So the voucher is for £380. And I think I've diarised on the 1st of January to make sure I've spent that voucher, because I know what I'm like and I'll forget to use it. And then it's KLM have made £400 out of me for nothing, which I can't have because £400 is a lot of money.
Yes.
And so what I would say to Kevin is, and anybody else, is diarise. As soon as you get a voucher for 12 months, diarise a reminder 6 months from now to book a flight. It doesn't matter where you're going to go, just use that voucher. Because for me, if I don't get to go back to Oslo to connect onto a Qatar flight, I can use that KLM voucher to fly to Greece, Spain, wherever, because KLM from here fly to Amsterdam and then from Amsterdam to the world. So, I may go on a KLM long haul flight next year to perhaps the States, but I'll use that voucher because it's dead easy to use that KLM voucher as well. They just give you a voucher code to punch in and it gives you a discount. Simple. KLM have done a good job there. Some will say KLM should have given cash refunds, but the reality is I want KLM to survive. So I don't want them giving cash refunds to everybody because they'll go out of business. So I'm happy with that. And that's probably quite an unusual view as a passenger. But
No, yeah. But for those people who don't know what we're talking about, this is where, if I don't forget, I'll put I think right here in the top right corner, a little thingy to our podcast with Dennis, because he perfectly said why we need to take vouchers over cash.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And I'm a big believer in that, Robin. I sympathise with people who might have saved up for 12 months for their big holiday, and they're now having to wait for a voucher refund rather than cash. And I sympathise with that view, I do. But for me, logically, if you think about it, if airlines refunded every penny they've taken from customers for the next 12 months, there will be no airlines. That's the truth. You'll have the survival of the fittest, which will be a small number of airlines that have got access to lots of liquidity from the capital markets or wherever. But the truth is, very few airlines operate like that. So I'm happy to take a voucher, but I'm not going to lose it. So what I would say, Kevin, is that's a brilliant question. Make sure you pop a note in your diary 6 months from now, or 6 months from when you got the voucher, to book a flight, and make sure you do. Make sure you use that voucher. 100%.
I actually got an email from Air Transat because I originally had a flight booked with them to fly in June on their Airbus A330 from Montreal to Toronto. And they just sent me an email saying that the vouchers that they've given for all the flights will never expire and they're transferable, which I think is a horrible business decision. But
I think the risk with any airline telling you, and I'll come back and I'll let me answer this question in full. That is a really good point, because if you take an airline voucher that lasts forever, you could think, great, I've got no plans for it at the moment, I'll use it in 5 years' time. Try telling that to the British Midland cardholders who were promised gold for life years and years ago. The airline went bust, and British Airways said, it's not our problem. BMI promised you that. British Midland promised you that. We didn't. So anybody who had gold for life has now, with British Midland, has now not got gold for life. And the warning there is, if that airline goes bust, what are you then going to do? Because the voucher's not going to be you can't use the voucher with another airline. So what I would say is, never trust any company that says it's a voucher for life. Spend it. Make sure you spend it as soon as you can. Like with me with my KLM voucher, I will use that. I think KLM is a stable airline. It's a national flag carrier, so it's as stable as airlines can be. So but if KLM had have said, "Don't worry, Mr. Smith, it's valuable for life," A, you're losing value every year because of inflation, but B, there's no guarantee what happens to KLM or any other airline 10 years from now. Airlines have a knack of going bust, unfortunately. It's a very tough business to make money in. So I would say spend the voucher. Yeah, absolutely. At least book a flight with it. Yeah.
Which I should. It's only like $100. It's not like heaps of money, but
it's $100 of your money, though, isn't it? So it's
absolutely true. Here, next question is from, who do you guess? Neil Turner.
Neil Turner. There we go. I could say I've never heard of him. Perhaps I should say who is he. I don't know. Maybe I should say I don't know who he is. I'm dreading this question, Robin, but go on, hit me with it. Yeah.
Yeah, he sent me a DM saying, "Hi Robin, as I'm traveling with Neil Smith in early August on his first flight since COVID, I thought I'd send in a few questions for the podcast. Starting with the first one. How excited are you to be flying again in August after nearly 5 months underground?"
I am incredibly excited, Robin. I think I'm glad they asked that question. I think that's probably one of the lighter questions he could have asked me, actually. But I'm absolutely thrilled, Robin. I really am. I'm so hoping that flight goes next week. I think after nearly 5 months being grounded, and let's put this into context. As I said earlier, I'm somebody who has been a frequent flyer, 100 flights a year for the best part of 20 years. It's tough. It's tough when you suddenly get grounded like that. It's a big life-changing event for me, and I think so. For me, I'm glad Neil asked that question. I think Neil knows, because we've got to know each other really well. But I think he knows the significance of me traveling next week. As Neil, and I know he's looking forward to it as well. But yeah, I am absolutely thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. If that flight doesn't happen, what I've said is, because I've booked the time off, I will just go onto the Ryanair website and just find somewhere to go anywhere. I will just fly somewhere in the next week, and I'll make a video of it. And I'm going to make a point of, this is my first flight in nearly 5 months. I am so excited. I'm so excited, looking forward to it. Yeah, very, very looking forward to it.
That answer doesn't surprise me a bit.
No. I mean, I think, we're both fellow aviation enthusiasts. It's a big part of our lives. And so no, it shouldn't. It shouldn't surprise anybody to hear that. No.
Second question from Neil. How sad were you to hear about the immediate retirement of the BA 747?
Yeah, you see, this is the thing. It's this is going to be a long answer, unfortunately. So, I think simply, I'm very sad. I am very sad. I am very gutted. I put it on Facebook at the time, and I think I put something on Twitter. To me, I was very fortunate by chance to have flown on the 747 with British Airways back in January. But I think you have to look back to, for me, when I was a child, I flew a lot with family. And the 747 was the queen of the skies. If you flew anywhere long haul, it was on a 747 or a TriStar. And I think the double blow for me is that it was before I got into vlogging, unfortunately, but I was on the final ever British Airways 767 flight from Larnaca to Heathrow, and they made such a big deal about it. So I got a little certificate. My wife and I did it. We got a certificate, free-flowing champagne. It was a real party atmosphere on board. It was in November 2018, I think. I still got the certificate. So I think I'm sad that the 747 is being retired immediately, because it leads into, I was really hoping that perhaps Neil and I and yourself and others could have made that final ever 747 BA commercial flight. Because if they treat it the same way as they did with the 767 final flight, it would have been something to remember. Because as with the 767, probably more so with the 747, it's a very iconic aircraft. And it was the aircraft of the day in the 60s that enabled whole continents to connect in 10, 12 hours, whereas previously it would have taken you days to get to somewhere. Yeah. So I think I am incredibly sad that BA have chosen to retire the 747 in this way, but I'm not surprised. I think the 747, it's an aircraft that has 4 engines to be maintained. It apparently, and I'm sure I read this, I don't know where I read this, but I read this recently, that the 747 costs nearly twice as much to fly as the A350 does now. So when you're making fuel savings like that, and of course going back to Alex Cruz and Willie Walsh, and the people who just look at the pounds and pence and have no emotion like you and I do, Robin, let's face it, because Alex Cruz and people like him and Willie Walsh, they have no emotional affiliation to the airline industry. They are there to run profitable businesses and to respond to shareholders. So I think they've dumped it unceremoniously, which is a real shame.
Unlike Qantas.
Correct. Yeah. I saw did you see the picture of the Qantas that they'd drawn on on Flight Radar the other day, where they drew a circle of the kangaroo, didn't they? Yeah. And I think BA, if they'd have been caring, and unfortunately, unlike their sort of staff, their frontline staff, I think the leadership of BA doesn't really get the emotional attachment that people have to flying. I think it's really sad. I think I am saddened by the 747 being retired in such an unceremonious way as well. And it's heartbreaking, really. But for so many reasons, like I said, I think it's a real shame. But the future is clearly in the 787s and the A350s. Airlines clearly want to provide smaller but more frequent services. And the sensible side of me says, you can't blame them for that. So, but it is sad. Yeah, it is sad. And I think Neil and I we are currently scheduled to fly back from LA on a 747 with BA next February. So we don't know yet what aircraft that will be replaced with. But
probably
I think
a 787.
Probably a 787. And don't get me wrong, Robin. I mean, the 787 is a nice aircraft to fly on it, and I like the 787, and I like the A350. But the 747 is still the queen of the skies. It's the aircraft that I grew up flying when I was younger, and I'm talking, when I was 5 or 10. We used to fly all over the place as a family on the 747, because it was the de facto aircraft that you flew on long haul. It was just, you had a colour screen with a projector on the front, and 3 colours. I remember it. It was a terrible screen quality, but that's what you flew on. If in the sort of early 80s, but probably mid-80s, through to the end of the 80s, to be honest, if even from Manchester, in fact, they used to fly the 747. Ward Air of Canada used to fly a 747 into Leeds Bradford once a week. But yeah, very sad, very sad. Yeah,
I think it's very similar with KLM because they also unceremoniously retired the 747. And I still dearly hope that they're going to do something like they did with the farewell flights of the MD-11 that they've done in 2014, 15. They did really similar to one of the farewell flights that Dennis just has been on with the 747 in Qantas. Just a circle, just an hour in the air back to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I would hope they would do something like that, because this, after flying with KLM for 50 years, just sending them off is not the way to go.
It's been a big part of KLM's history. It's been a big part of their formulation as an airline, as a national carrier.
Absolutely.
And it's not the way to go, as you rightly said there, just to dump it and just to chuck it onto some scrap heap somewhere. But I think this is where the disconnect happens between airline leadership and airline passengers, and I think increasingly so. British Airways, and I'll say this, and I've said this on Twitter before, is that British Airways was at its best at the turn of around the year 2000, under a couple of guys. So there was John King, Lord King, and Colin Marshall. So Colin Marshall, and those two transformed British Airways into one of the world's best leading airlines, because they understood.
The world's favourite airline it was.
The world's favourite airline it was. They understood what the passenger wanted. They understood the luxury premium concept. And I think that British Airways has never been the same since. And what I see as a regular BA customer is the Twix. That's right. And the Twix is a great example. Did you see the video? And yes. I think and I wasn't sure whether to launch that video or not. And Neil and I ummed and ahed over a few glasses of wine as to whether I should launch it or not, purely because of what the BA staff are going through at the moment. And I think that just sums up, the Twix sums up to me British Airways leadership. I have nothing but contempt for those people. I think that Alex Cruz, Willie Walsh, and others that sit on the board of British Airways have completely lost sight of what passengers need and want. And I think that, some will say, yes, but British Airways needs to be profitable. British Airways needs to compete with the flag carriers of other countries. And the world's changed since Lord King and Colin Marshall. And I think, yeah, it has. When Colin Marshall and John King were running it, there wasn't a Ryanair and there wasn't an EasyJet, and the low-cost revolution hadn't happened. But if you look how long it's taken BA to bring the club suite to us, and it's only just launched in the last 12 months, that is unforgivable. It's unacceptable. And I think that, it as much as I will always be loyal to British Airways, obviously, because it's a British airline and because the staff do such a fabulous job. But the way I would summarise it, Robin, is it's like a pedalo. If you think the pedalo you hire them in Spain to pedal around the seas and all that. On the one hand, you've got the staff at the front line pedaling really hard to make the successful airline. And on the other hand, you've got the people like Alex Cruz and Willie Walsh who are just stood there firmly anchoring that pedalo to stop it moving forward. And I think that's the challenge. There's no doubt that BA has three stakeholders: the shareholder, the passenger, and the people who work for the airline, the staff. The stakeholders have done very well out of British Airways, but I would argue the passenger and the staff have done less well. But that's me on my high horse talking about British Airways. I think that's
no. I think you're right. I'm genuinely concerned for IHG in general, especially with IHG taking over Air Europa in Spain, practically losing any competition on the Spanish market.
Yes. Yeah.
And they have Vueling, they have Iberia, BA,
Indeed.
and
Yep.
and I don't think that the decisions that they're taking are good for the passengers in general.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Yeah, 100%.
But I totally agree. I totally understand why the 747 is just not an economical aircraft to fly. It's expensive. There's 4 engines. It's even bigger problem that with the retirement of the Qantas 747 that there's no other Rolls-Royce operator.
Yeah.
So they have no engines as well to get from
No
anywhere.
parts. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I totally understand the reasoning behind it, but
It doesn't make it any easier.
Taken away from us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree, 100%.
I'm getting passionate now. I'm not sure if that's the wine or that's aviation in general.
Probably bit of both. Yeah, bit of both.
Neil actually had a third question, and this is going to be the toughest one. So there were 2. The first one was kind of light. The second one was a little bit more emotional. The third one is really getting into your emotions here.
Okay.
What's your favorite lounge?
Favorite lounge? Oh, wow. That's an excellent question. That's a really good question, actually, Neil. And I know you'll be watching this because you've been pestering me all week. So he keeps... I have to be honest, Robin, at this point, I have to say, Neil has pestered me for the last 5 weeks. At least, have you heard from Robin yet? When are you going to go on his show? And that's what Neil has said to me at least the last 5 weeks. So I know Neil will be watching this. What's my favourite lounge? I think, oh goodness me, this is a tough question. So the video I haven't released yet, and I'm still on the fence whether to release it or not, because it's going to be very divisive, is what's best in the US, the Amex Centurion Lounge or the American Airlines flagship lounges. Now, I have my view. Actually, to me, it wasn't a tough view. It was a very clear winner for very specific reasons. But of the lounges I've experienced in all my time, if you look at it from a priority pass perspective, there are 2 lounges that stand out by far, by a country mile. One is the lounge at Billund in Denmark, which I visited with Sam earlier in the year. An excellent lounge, spacey, good food. The other priority pass lounge, which I really liked, which has won awards as being the best voted lounge in Europe, is the, I think I always get the pronunciation wrong, Robin. Basel? How do you pronounce that? Basel. So, Basel? You know what I mean? It sits right on the border between France and Switzerland. Right. So when you come off the plane, you can either go left and clear Swiss customs, or you can go right and clear French customs. But the lounge sits independently. So you go through security, and then you can go into the priority pass lounge, and that is excellent. It has good all round views. It's on split level. It has a little, I want to say a water feature. The food is excellent. It's well replenished, and they do ice creams there as well. So out of the priority pass lounges, that would be my favourite. I have to say, and again, this is going to be very divisive, which is why I haven't launched the video, because frankly, I need to brave myself for the feedback and the negative comments, is I think comparing Amex Centurion and comparing American Airlines flagship, for me, the flagship lounges win 100%. The Centurion lounges were okay, but it's not self-serve alcohol. The food was very below average, I thought. The choice was below average, the quality was below average. And this was having tried the Centurion Lounge in Miami. Now, I know there's a new their biggest lounge, the biggest Centurion Lounge ever to open, is about to open in JFK, which may make things slightly better. There was nothing wrong with it. But for me, it was just the flagship lounge is everything that you want it to be. It's spacious, nice warm welcome, great food, great alcohol, and I felt really relaxed in there. Mm-hmm. And I must say, I think flagship lounges with American Airlines give a run for the money for any airline in the world. I think I've been to the Emirates lounges in Dubai, but they get really packed at certain times of the day as various connecting flights land. What other lounges? It's a tough question.
You've been to a lot of them.
I have, yeah, I have. I like I do like the BA lounges at Heathrow, but they get very packed, and the temperature, the actual physical temperature, is sky high at some times in the day. So you're sat there literally sweating because it's so warm.
T3 or 5?
5.
5.
Yeah.
Okay.
The lounge that's good, but that I don't get to use very often, is in Terminal 3. BA have a small number of flights. So I've tried the Cathay Pacific. Now I've tried the Qantas lounge, but the Cathay Pacific lounge, especially on the first class side, where they do the dim sum, it's excellent. But I get to use it so rarely, and you obviously speak from experience. I can tell that you obviously experienced it. It is excellent. It is excellent. It really is. But I get to use it so rarely that
that is my of the limited experience that I have with the better lounges, Cathay Pacific, in Heathrow T3, my favorite.
Yeah, it is an excellent lounge. I'll grant you that. Yeah, it's well set up, obviously, for Cathay's long haul passengers out of Heathrow. But I've only been in it twice, I think, in my lifetime, because BA only has a small number of flights from there now, and a number of them, because of COVID, have moved up back to T5. So, but yes, it is an excellent lounge. But it's a tough question, really tough question, especially as somebody who, like I said earlier, we've spent time talking about the lounge experience, which is a massive part for me. It's a huge part of the experience overall for me. So.
And I'm actually glad that you said it, because I knew I wanted to talk about this. Because I've had quite a bit of Avios due to some offer that Iberia has had. Remember the 9,000 Avios offer they had a couple years ago?
I remember it. I remember it well, yes.
So I spent those miles on a flight because I really wanted to try out the BA first on the 747. The only flight with the amount of Avios that I had that I was able to afford was to Miami.
Okay.
I spent, I think, countless hours trying to research the longest flight I could book with the amount of Avios that I had, and unfortunately, I couldn't get further than Miami. Nothing wrong with Miami, but it's like 8-9 hours compared to like 11-12 hours to the American West Coast.
Yeah.
And then I found out that I was flying from T3 instead of T5. And I was gutted until I found out that T3 has a better choice of lounges than T5.
Yeah, it does.
In T5, you have the Concorde room, but in T3, you have American Airlines, you have Qantas, you have Cathay Pacific, and another BA first class lounge.
Yeah,
and
you do. Yeah.
I went to 3 out of 4 on one night. I went to Cathay Pacific for supper, the dim sum in the first class lounge, and for the shower, because they have fantastic showers.
Yeah.
And then I went to Qantas for a cocktail. They have a good cocktail bar there. And then I went to the British Airways lounge just for free whiskey.
Okay, yeah. And that's probably the right way of doing it, Robin, actually. Yeah, so I think your priorities are absolutely right there. I think the whiskey is good in the BA lounges. There's no doubt about that. They do a good range of whiskies, especially on the F side. The Qantas lounge is good for the cocktails, and it's a nice lounge, and the food's not bad. But the Cathay Pacific lounge is definitely the place to be if you like that sort of food. And I just like the lounges and the overall atmosphere. Yeah. So, but a very difficult question to answer, a really tough question to answer. I think But as Neil's going to find out when we go to the US and various other trips over the next 12 months, he's going to get fed up visiting airport lounges. So,
As long as there's wine.
as long as there's wine. As long as there's wine, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't need anything else.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for answering the questions. I hope Neil is happy with the questions. And Neil, if you're watching this, have fun on your trip with other Neil here.
I'm sure we'll be fine.
I hope you're not going to get too fed up with him. And now we're moving on to the final, because we're over 2 hours into the podcast today. Longest episode so far.
Finally. There you go. It's been fun. It's been good. It's been really good. This. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But we're moving on to the final part of the podcast, named the plane, because with every episode we test the guests' knowledge on how much they know about planes really, and whether they can identify the type of aircraft that they fly on. Would Neil know all the aircraft that he flies on, or would he not? And today our pictures are taken again, just like a couple episodes again, by our good friend jfk.spotting on Instagram, who you can also find on YouTube as The Planes Guy. Thank you so much for letting us use the pictures from your Instagram. As always, I'll share a link to your Instagram in the description down below. So if you want to see any of the pictures that you see in the episode today, make sure to click the link in the description and you can see always fantastic photos. Also, if you do want to play along with Name the Plane, pause the video here and then get some piece of paper and a pen so you can write down all the aircraft that you're able to identify. And then let me know in the comments down below how many you got right. Neil, turning on the light now. It's getting darker in the UK.
It's getting dark here, actually. It is, yeah.
How confident do you feel about identifying aircraft?
I don't know if I'll be as good as Blake, put it that way. I'm not sure, but we'll give it a go, Robin. We'll give it a go. We'll see how we do.
Absolutely, because it's a 10th episode. So far, the leaderboard keeps growing and growing with every single episode. And still on top of the leaderboard is Alex Berglowski, my good friend, and he's still got 16. Then Soplane took second place a couple weeks ago with 14. Billy Gilbert, all the way from the first episode, still has 13. Jep is still sharing the fourth place with John from Treasury Traveling with 12. Fly Around, Julius, he only got, I don't know how many actually, but he's in 5th place. Blake is still on the 6th place with 8. Noel Phillips has 5. And Dennis, he knows the inside of an airplane better than the outside, and he only got 4. So how many do you think you're going to get?
So we've got 20, have we? Is that right?
I have a total of 28 pictures ready for you. So
28.
Yes. So you have to identify the type. So if we're talking about an Airbus A350, that's enough. You don't have to know the carrier. You don't have to know the variant. It's just the aircraft type.
Okay.
So that makes it a little bit easier. And if you don't know which aircraft it is, just say pass and we go on to the next one.
Right, you are. So I think I'm going to, out of 28, let's shoot high. Let's go for 20. I'm going to try and get 20 of these.
20?
Yeah. Who knows though? Who knows?
Is that before wine or after wine?
This is after wine, yeah. I always perform better after wine, so don't worry about that. That's fine.
Excellent. Cool. I'm going to share the screen with you.
Okay.
Can you just confirm if you can see this?
I can, yes. I can see the icon, the logo, yes.
Wow,
yes.
That's the first time that it works in the first time. So you have 1 minute to identify as many aircraft as you can. I'll count here. I have a timer on my phone right here, and then we can start as soon as you're ready.
Ready when you are.
Excellent. 3, 2, 1. Oh, sorry. No, that didn't start. 3, 2, 1.
Embraer 175.
CRJ.
Oh, CRJ, of course. A330.
Yes.
A320.
A321.
787.
Yes.
747.
Yes.
ATR 72.
Yes.
A321.
Yes, that's correct. A Neo.
CRJ 200.
Yes, that's correct.
737.
Yep.
BAE 146. I would know it as. I can't remember what the modern variant is. Pass.
Avro.
Of course, yeah. A350.
Yes.
A319.
Yes, that is an A319, but it was out of time. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got 8.
Fantastic.
And that indeed puts you on par with Blake Edgington.
Does it? Okay, I'm sure Blake will be delighted.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can live with that. That's good. Yeah, I couldn't remember what it used to be the 146, and I used to fly it ages ago with City Express or one of those BA franchises, but I couldn't remember what the modern variant was. But yeah, no, that's fine. That's good. Yeah.
Congratulations, you got 8. That's a pretty decent score.
Fantastic. Excellent. I'm pleased. And that's after wine as well, where I always perform better. So yeah.
And this time I wrote it down as well because I did such a horrible job with Dennis's episode. I'm just really poor with multitasking, but I guess that's what we're meant for.
It's a man thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So with that, we've reached the end of the podcast. Did you reach the end of the bottle?
Yeah, I have. Unfortunately, I have. So I was going to raise a glass to you, unfortunately, but there you go, Robin. I literally am out, and the glass is out. So I shall have to go and crack open a new bottle. But this has been really good fun. I've really enjoyed it, Robin. I really appreciate having me on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you like it?
I did. Yes, thank you. And I'd recommend it to anybody. So I think if you can get Scott, that would be great. I think the other person potentially is Neil Turner from Neil's Cars and Aviation. He's just starting to get into the vlogging world now, but his videos are good, and I know he puts a lot of effort into them. So Neil would be a good contestant for the show as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he played quite a big role in this episode already. Like,
he did. He did.
You could have done like one together with him.
Yeah. Perhaps we could. Perhaps that's one for a future episode. Yeah, we could maybe do it as a duo, as a couple. But yeah. So really good fun. Yeah. Thanks a million.
So it's Scott and Neil you would like to see on the podcast in a future episode.
Yes.
Sandspotter.
Yeah. I think Sandspotter, if he can get Scott, I think he would be he's obviously like the rest of us, he's struggled with some numbers over the last few months. But a good guy to get if you can get him. Yeah.
To the viewers out there, if you do happen to know Scott Sandspotter, or you have him on Twitter or Instagram, make sure to share this with him so we can actually get him on the podcast, because he's a little difficult to get through.
Yes. So. I'll have a word. I'll see if I can persuade him. See if I can twist his arm.
That'd be nice. Well, thank you so much, Neil. I had such a cracking time with you.
I did as well.
But
it's been
also, definitely thank you so much for your time. You were one of the first people who said yes to coming on the podcast. So I'm sorry that it took 10 episodes to eventually get onto here. So thank you so much for your time. It's been a very long episode. So if you're still awake, thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to Neil's channel here. He's grown his channel rapidly. He just reached 1,200 subscribers on his channel. And I'm sure with the trips that he's planned for the rest of the year that he's got some cracking content coming up. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy content like this, we have some really cool podcasts coming up on the channel really soon. They're not all going to have red wine. Maybe they have beer. Maybe they're going to be alcohol free. But I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of fun regardless. Thank you so much for watching the past 2 hours. If you've made it to the end, let us know in the comments down below, because you're probably one of the few people who actually did. Thank you so much, and see you back for a future episode next week. Bye.